Brothers by Duffy. Well, I ought to confess from the start that I really don't like this poem, and I don't want that to influence you unduly. This is just one interpretation. But here we go. Why don't I like it? Well, one reason is the structure of the thing. There doesn't seem to me to be any syllable pattern, any kind of skillful use of stress. None of the lines are repeated in structure. In short, there's nothing in it that says to me, hey, look, this is a poem. This might as well be written in paragraphs and set out as prose, and I really don't think you'd have lost anything. So that's a structural thing. A poem needs to be a poem, I feel. But then there's also the mood and tone of the thing. And this is slightly tricky because I find it a complete attack against men, which I'll try to show you. And also there's a strong autobiographical element, and I can't help thinking, what on earth would her four real brothers think of this sort of portrayal? So I'll start with the title. And the title's got a kind of in-joke in it. It's an English literature kind of joke. And this idea of the other, the thing that's different to ourselves. And I think this is very much at play in this poem. She is the single sister, probably the oldest, and there are four boys she has to share her life with, and they're all other. They are completely different because they're male, and I think their maleness is what's under attack. So let's have a look and see what I mean in the first verse. So again it starts with a kind of joke. Once I slept in a bed with these four men who share, and the enjambment here is deliberate. We're expecting a sexual reference here, aren't we, that they're sharing her sexually, but no, what they share is quite a surprise to us. It is an older face, the face of her father, and so immediately we get this disconnection where she does not share her father's face, and there are probably lots of other characteristics of her father she doesn't share as well, but they do. And then that subliminally in that picture you've got sexually predatory men, haven't you? She's in the bed and she's with four of these men. It's a horrible kind of allusion to gang rape and the idea that every man underneath the surface is a rapist, and it's presented as a kind of joke here, and the joke is continued because she is in complete control. They can be made to laugh. Although she's outnumbered 4-1, she's in complete control of them. They're somehow simpler than her and much less sophisticated. And this is emphasised again with the emphasis on even. Even now, though they're adults and our childhood is over, I can still manipulate them, she seems to be saying. And she highlights just how ridiculous this is with the word random. Anything will do, she doesn't even have to try. So random quotes from the play they were in. And again, this reference to the word play, obviously it's a performance, but it's also what you do in childhood, you play. And she's still playing, still in complete control, still able to manipulate all these brothers. There's no way in the creation of God's earth, if you Google it, it's a made-up quotation, doesn't exist as far as we can tell, and that again emphasises how random her control is. It doesn't take any effort at all, and then she leaves them with this last line. They are without speech, without language. If you like, they haven't evolved. They merely grin and nod, as if to emphasise her superiority. Then, in the second verse, what was possible retreats and shrinks, and this again possibly it gives us an idea of the possibility of their lives which they haven't realised. There's something negative in it. They haven't developed to the way that they might do. They're still possibly infantile or unsuccessful. And then they shrink. They're worthless, or if not worthless, they're belittled. And again we've got this joke on the other again. She starts trying to look at them with male eyes. So with her other eyes she sees them as male, But again, she emphasises this idea of shrinkage. They become worth less and less. One is an altar boy, a boy practicing scales, a boy playing tennis, and then finally a baby. And this is kind of that evolutionary picture you've all seen where the monkey evolves into Neanderthal, evolves into man, and here it's the reverse: boy, 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 baby. Really emphasising how much she wants to belittle these men. And then, remember, they had no language before, they were grinning and nodding. Now they reduced this little baby crying in the night, and this horrible image, but very powerful one, flailing for a shape, as though this child wants an identity, but isn't going to get one. Why not? Because it's male. Males in this poem don't have an identity. They're absent. They share an older face. They're only quarters of a whole, if you like. The father is the whole, and they're just 4/4 of it. They are half beings, quarter beings. They're not really whole in this poem. And I find this a tragic attack on males, and I don't know if I'm overreacting, but it seems completely unfair and unjustifiable. And so then we move to the third verse. Occasionally, when people ask, I enjoy reciting their names. And look how she lays it on here. Occasionally. So I only occasionally like reciting their names. And then this word reciting, it's not the names themselves that she likes, the brothers themselves, it's the ritual. You know, it's like a prayer in a church that you go to because you don't believe in God anymore, but it's the tradition that you like. And there's this sense that she's lost faith in these boys and perhaps never had it. I don't have photographs. You know, the thing that jolts our memory and gives us pleasure, she's deliberately chosen not to have. It's not as though she hasn't been given these photographs. She doesn't have them. And then there's the word but. You know, well, I will make an exception, just repeating the names, which brings us back to the idea of reciting. This is something that's just ritual. There's nothing personal in it. There's no connection with the brothers. And here's a clue why. My mother chose them. Yes, she chose the names, but also perhaps her mother chose the brothers. And there's this sense of sibling rivalry here. Maybe her mother preferred the company of her brothers to her own. And then there's this huge resentment. I hear her life in the words, as though she's given her whole life to these names, to these brothers. She's sacrificed everything for them and nothing for Duffy. Anyway, that's how it feels. Huge resentment. And has it been worth it? Well, no. Look at this last line. The breeding words. And so her mother is just a vehicle for producing children, and more than that, producing boys. And we get that sense from the fact that Duffy's probably the oldest here. That's why she's sharing a bed with them. And as we'll see in the last verse, that's going to be why she's going to pay for the box. She's going to pay for the coffin because she's the eldest. And they're not satisfied with girls. Both parents keep wanting boys and more boys. And each birth is a terrible rejection of herself. And then finally, the blame, instead of being laid at her mother's feet, a word that broke her heart. And we don't know what the word is. Was it love? Was it breeding? What is that word? It's kept from us. But it's associated with the boys, with the brothers. And they've broken her heart. And that she can't forgive. And now, in the final verse, it's very peculiar. She portrays herself as a masculine figure, as another figure. As a figure that is other. Much in common me with thieves, archetypally male, and businessmen, clearly labelled as male, with fathers and UB40s. And this is an extraordinary thing here. The UB40 doesn't seem to fit. It's a form that you would fill out to claim unemployment benefit. And there's a sense here that the father was unemployed, or actually unemployed as a father, absent. If we go back to that first verse, he appears only as a face. He doesn't feature in the rest of the poem, as though he has abandoned them. And you get the feeling here that this isn't just her father or the brother's father, this is somehow archetypally male. You know, even if the father is present in body, he's not there in mind, he's absent. The family don't have a father. We have nothing to say of now, and it's an admission that she's still living in the past and not able to escape it. This view she has of her brothers from childhood, she simply can't cast away, and she can't grow out of it. Time owns us, because the future is always moving towards death, but also we can't escape the past. How tall they've grown, and this is a wonderful image, as though they're trying to escape the past. They're trying to be adults, but instead of leaving us on this image of hope, she contrasts it. From growth to death, we move straight from growth to the box, the coffin that she's going to pay for. And why is she going to pay for it? So she can watch them shoulder it. They're going to have to carry their mother to the grave, but also there's this idea of shouldering guilt, shouldering the blame, and this is her final revenge. They're going to have to bear the weight of their mother, just as she's had to bear the weight of them. And by she, I don't just mean the mother whose heart is broken, but Duffy, the speaker in the poem. And so that's why I hate this poem so much. Okay, that's all very well, but what about an alternative view? What if Duffy is writing for all brothers and all sisters? Actually, this is a poem about sibling rivalry, and it's a universal poem. You know, we all have resentments with our siblings, don't we? If you've got brothers or sisters, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And often it's not even something that they're responsible for. It's just the fact that you're having to share your life with them. And, let's look at this poem. How does she expect her readers to react? If this is an autobiographical poem, it's incredibly honest, isn't it? Would you take this risk of actually saying exactly how you feel so everyone could see it, and knowing that it might be readers like me who are thinking, well, hang on, this is completely unjust. How can you treat your brothers in this way? And maybe that's the point of the poem. And of course another thing to consider is, what if my reaction to this poem is based on what I know about her autobiographically? Here's a bisexual poet. What if I'm reading into this a dislike of men, and that actually at the current stage in her life she's living with a woman and prefers women? Has that influenced my thinking? Am I subconsciously thinking, maybe she doesn't like men after all? Well, I hope not, but can I be sure? So, always consider the opposite point of view. And thank you very much.